Okay.
Right.
I have this annoying bar. Yeah.
Ready to go whenever.
Yeah. Good. Oops. This is annoying. Okay, a short intermezzo from the easy day from today. So I will try to make it short and sweet. I will talk about installing datasets with EasyBuild. Okay. So this is the small outline. So why do you want to do this? What do you want to have? How can we use EasyBuild to do this? How can we use the environment variable models for that? How can we optimize the storage? Some example usages, and then some more potential use cases, and then some random hallucinations. Because usually people complain about hallucinations, about the language models, but I actually like them. Okay. So what's the motivation? Data sets are becoming more and more important in all fields of research. We know that, right? And especially with machine learning that is invading all fields, it's becoming worse and worse. So there will be more data sets and they will become bigger and bigger and bigger. So what we need is something to easily install those data sets so the users can easily use them, right? And what is the current situation? Well, it's kind of the Wild West, right? Usually site admins have some custom scripts that will install stuff, or maybe they will just manually download them. Do we have checksums, versioning? Maybe you do, maybe you're not. Maybe you have that checked in a repo, so you can have a version control, maybe you're not. We don't know, right? Or maybe just researchers are installing all those data sets individually, which is, of course, the worst thing you can have, because then you will have multiple copies of the same data sets. So what do we want? We want to have a system that gives us checksums, versioning, that gives us a reproducible way to install those. Can be used as dependency for software. Can we share the recipes so that not everybody has to do the same work over and over again? Can we then make those datasets easily discoverable? Can users easily load them? Can we easily swap between different versions of the datasets? Can we minimize data duplication? And last point, can we use dedicated fast storage for those things? Well, as it turns out, when I asked Kenneth, like, I want to add support for installing datasets in EasyBuild, can we do that? And he said, well, EasyBuild is not designed for that. It's designed for software, and that's true. But as it turns out, EasyBuild is actually, it looks like it's designed because it has all the features that we need. It has checksums, versioning, reproducible, can be used as dependency for other software, and we can share the recipes. So life is good, right? We can also leverage environment variables, models, because EasyBuild integrates with that. So with the models, we can easily discover them. We can ask what they are. We can load them. We can easily swap between them. But of course, we have to make sure that swapping works. So best to not make software dependencies of the datasets. So try to keep them pure datasets. Maybe if it's system software, it's still possible, but I think it's better to not do it. We can optimize storage, because when we install it centrally, then we only need one copy and all the users can use it, of course. And we can also make sure it is on a dedicated storage for custom installation. But for that, EasyBuild was not yet fully ready, so I had to make small modifications for that. So here is the implementation that I currently have. It's in a pull request, but it's still open for discussion. So if you have any ideas to improve, please let me know. So what we do, it is a new EasyBlock, dataset EasyBlock that inherits from the binary EasyBlock. So actually already you can install datasets with EasyBuild just using the binary EasyBlock. If you have like a tarball, you can just use that to install. But I try to improve it a little bit to make it even more usable. For example, you can provide a custom data install pod. So if you want certain data sets to be stored in a specific place, you can do that. And you can have also another option like clean up data sources, which allows you to clean up the tarballs if you want to. You can keep them or you can just delete them.
That data install path, did you put that into, so it's available to set in the EasyBuild config file?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
What do you mean? In the easy config or in the?
As a parameter option.
Because you want to.
Like prefix, like install path from the top, not just in.
The EasyBuild configuration.
Yeah.
Because you want to install different things to different places.
I want to globally specify this is the data install path.
Yeah.
You can also globally
Not just
specify
like
it
getting to that. Yeah.
with the options that I added here. So similar to subdir software, you can have subdir data, install pod data, similar to install pod software, sort pod data, and so on. That's what you want, right?
Exactly what they asked.
Okay. So can I create a model for a pre-existing data set? This is a question like, oh, but I already have so much data installed. Do I have to reinstall this with EasyBuild? No, you don't have to do that. You can just specify the data install path for this data. And you just do EB model only, and it will generate a model for you. And that's it. So here's the first example use case. This is the one that triggered this story. It was the RF diffusion PR from Thomas, where we had this problem that this software depends on two data sets, the models and the schedules. The models are, well, they're not really big, but rather big. So we don't want to impose on people to have it installed twice, right? But we also don't want to have to reinstall every time we want to reinstall RF diffusion, the software. So the solution is to couple this, to have separate easy configs for the data sets. So that was done in this PR. Let's see, can I go here? So it was actually Thomas who suggested this solution. So it's not my idea. So here I have two dataset easy configs, one for RF diffusion models and one for RF diffusion schedules. So it's very simple, right? You have the version, homepage description, toolchain is system, of course. Maybe we can also make that like a requirement that you don't even have to specify it in the easy config. I don't know if that's possible. And then just the data sources, checksum, of course, sanity check paths. And then here, this is the only thing that the model actually does. When you load it, it sets some environment variables so that the user can know where to find the data set. how can I go back to my presenter view? Oops, yeah. Yeah, this is another potential use case for which I don't yet have a PR, which was the idea of Orca. So for AlphaFold, the problem is that this database is quite big. It's a few terabytes. And it's regularly updated, but not each data set is every time updated with update. So ideally, you would only download the data sets that are changed. And for each version, use symlinks or some other solution so that we can save space. So, and we can perfectly do that by making a custom EasyBlock for that. And then we have to just make a small section for the download and for the installation. So, but that's for future work. Another potential use case, ESM'2, which uses pre-trained PyTorch models. And the problem there is when the user starts to use the software, it will automatically download those models for the user. And it will, even worse, by default, download them in the user's home. And then the home gets filled and you get all those problems. So the solution is, again, to create a custom dataset-derived EasyBlock with PyTorch as a build app, so we can just run that command for the user and store it in the Torch home environment variable that we set in the EasyConfig for them in the model. Some random hallucinations. What's this? Yes, so we've seen a number of people presenting various solutions for automated installation. And well, what we want actually is to make it easier for users to use centrally installed datasets. But of course, for a user, it's very easy to just download the datasets that they need. So we have to have a solution for them that is also very easy to get access to this. So what I was thinking, hallucinating, is like if you have like a supported set of dataset repositories, and then the user can just say, I want this dataset from this repository and this version, and then trigger this automated build, and it will just do everything for the user, install it. And why I think this is perfectly doable, because it's just data, right? It doesn't have any dependencies usually. So what can go wrong?
Does that mean you want to let the user request this as simple as possible, right? So they give you the link to the data set or whatever, so something that they can understand. You don't expect them to give you an EasyConfig file that uses the dataset EasyBlock. So that means you'll have to generate the EasyConfig? Yeah. But also the EasyConfig is very easy. I mean, it's very straightforward. It's just a URL in most cases and a version. Right? And we also don't want to install like the whole repo, because that's way too big and not all users need all the datasets in a repo. So that could be a good solution. There's a suggestion by Thomas to use DOIs as well. So these unique URLs that are usually attached to the datasets, they could just give you that, and then you could figure out the matching EasyConfig from that and pass it to EasyBuild. Yeah.
When you're doing this, does it download it to a temporary location? Because if we are talking about multi-petabyte things, and if it goes to a temp directory or to whatever, some different place than the final destination, that you have to do this movement, which can take depending on the data sets that I'm thinking about, it would take days just to copy. Yeah. Or it would just exhaust the file system of the temporary location. So this is dealt with, or
So you can specify the location where the files are downloaded. So this is the source path data.
Oh, okay. And what EasyBuild currently does when it downloads something, it downloads it straight to there. So it doesn't like download there and then copy it. It goes straight to the location that it was configured.
In a similar theme, what Alex mentioned, I installed a dataset for Rosetta Fold FN, I think it was. They've done it actually quite nicely because they provided a set of scripts. So you run that script and then you basically go for lunch and you go for dinner and you go to sleep and you come back and you have breakfast and then it is all downloaded. Fine. Oh, I have to extract it. Okay, next script. Also takes some time. Now we have to do something with the data and I have to load one kind of module. Do you have any ideas as we are on the hallucination page? Do you have any idea how to deal with that? Because like you said, and I'm very happy to see that it does make sense to have a way to install it easily, centrally, if you see what I mean. But if you've got a large data set, I mean, that was a few terabytes we were talking about. And yes, it took some time to copy it from my ephemeral to the final location. So that would be much better here. But do you have any ideas to put all of that in a post installation command?
Yeah, you can perfectly use a post install command. And then you have to just copy all the commands in.
As you said, for AlphaFold or for the rest, you make an easy block that deals with this.
Yeah.
The problem is that they might change the procedure between versions like AlphaFold does slightly. And then you have to deal with that. But we do that for other things anyway. So
Hello. So there's a tool for macOS packaging called Auto Package that uses some quite nice methods for storing data about the files that it's downloaded. So it kind of looks at the sources online and checks whether the E tags have changed and checks what the change dates were actually in the HTTP headers. So whether or not there's something that could be leveraged there as well in EasyBuild potentially to store that data alongside so that you're not going out, obviously in the case of AlphaFold, because it just pulls everything down. You can check something once you've got it, but if you can see that the E tag's not changed since you last downloaded it, then that could be a kind of efficiency saving there for not just pulling another sort of 1 terabyte data set.
Yeah.
Just a comment. I think I've actually seen this in the wild already, where at least one biology data set, I think it was like a genome set, has been deployed as it was deployed. It was a data set, but it was deployed like software, and so I think one of the and maybe you already have a plan for doing this, but I think one of the things that needs to happen is that we need to make an explicit separate set of like terminology and separate file types and stuff like that and then make people aware that no, don't deploy this like software, deploy it like a data set.
Yeah, well, that's you define that using the EasyBlock. Huh? The name of the EasyBlock tells you what kind of installation it is usually. Is that your answer? No, maybe I'm misunderstanding.
I think if a user just blindly installs it, it's telling them that they're installing, the data set versus software, so they might need to or want to specify something different.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm posing my question or comment correctly anyway.
Yeah, if you have any suggestion how to do that?
I mean,
obviously there's my review question, which is like,
I don't think I have the I think I need to do a little bit more. I'm still new to this, so I think I need to do more reading and so that it's that like easy blocks and easy configs are things that are generalized are things that it makes sense to call them even if they're data sets rather than naming them something different.
So I want to know whether we can answer the review question that I posed, which is there. Can you bring the easy config up? And your last comment is actually the question I wanted answered, which Kenneth has a different view, and we might need to just.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay. So there it is, line, whatever. It's not in that end, it's in framework. So if you just stick, but if you stay with the
No, it's not
easy
that one.
config, you can
This
stay with
one?
the easy config. I can answer it from the config.
Really?
If you go to the
file?
show the file, yeah. Sorry, this was something there. So
yes, indeed. So
scroll.
you're talking about the data sources, right?
Yeah. So my question was, and Sam, we went off and you fixed something else that I hadn't noticed I wanted fixed.
Yeah,
but,
I misunderstood your question first,
yeah,
and then I realized, oh no, he's asking something different.
So the question is, I personally would just call that sources. I don't see why in an easy config we'd want to call it data sources, because
So
particularly the code, all the code does in the framework is to go, oh, it's a data source. That's good. It's the right sort of data, easy block. We'll just set that to be sources.
Yeah.
So
it has exactly the same function as just sources. So there's no real reason, but I think the reason why Kenneth suggested this, just to make it more clear that it's data we're talking about, just for the user, I guess, right?
Yeah, the naming just feels wrong to me. Say source.
But
if other people think it's clear, I'm happy to drop my argument.
Yeah.
I don't know.
You might need potentially.
Actually, no, I think you need it, because there could be a situation where you have a software installation with data as well, and you want to make sure those things go to different places.
Yeah.
So that I think is a good argument to have data sources separately. That the data goes to the data location and the software goes to the software location.
But then I have some work to do.
The framework doesn't support that change at the moment.
Not at the moment. Yeah.
But in that case, I would have done two easy configs so that then you have the software that can change after.
Yeah.
You could, but maybe you don't need to be forced to create a separate easy config.
At the moment, that won't work with Sam's framework PR.
Yeah.
At the moment, sources is literally data sources is just effectively an alias to sources. Just it's implemented a point where, and it just gets overwritten. That was what looked odd to me when reviewing.
Yeah. Okay.
But if we do want to out of the box go, actually we can have one easy config that supports both. The slight complication is, how does it then have two easy? Well, you must be in the land of components and.
Yeah, you can do a bundle of components where one component is the software, another component is the data.
Each component would be a component that's using a data set easy block, and a component that's using a software easy block. So you can still call it sources because you're still at that point in.
Yes, but framework doesn't take into account which easy block you're using for downloading stuff. So if you say it's a data set easy, it's using a data set easy block and it has sources, so that means it needs to go into the data pod. There's nothing like this currently in framework. Maybe it's not that difficult to implement. Like framework knows very little about which easy blocks exist. There's no logic anywhere in framework that says if, configure, make, or whatever.
And
I think we want to
might be going the review. What would? Because I don't think it would know at the moment. If you're saying that, then I think the current implementation needs more change. Apparently,
yes,
something I don't understand in.
But I mean, the whole reason why we started this is to be able to decouple the data from the software. So you can reinstall the data if needed, reinstall the software. You don't have to re-download everything.
Yeah. Maybe you want to keep the door open to still have them in. So there may be use cases where it makes more sense. Like if the data is very tied to the software version, maybe it makes more sense to install them in one go rather than having to create 2 separate easy configs for them.
And if the data requires a little piece of software to do something with the data after it's been downloaded, then you don't want to mix that into the data tree necessarily.
Well, you could make the data set easy config depend on the software.
Yeah,
Or
if
build-
it's
or build depend on the software.
of course.
Yeah.
Dependency is no problem, yeah.
Yeah.
We can do lots of things.
There's a few questions.
Yeah, but
now.
before, can you go back to your slides where you said about the huge data sets and avoiding storing the same thing multiple times? Where you said maybe we can create an easy block that derives from data set.
Just say stop.
No, you're too far. Go back. One more. Here.
Okay.
No, it's further than later. No, don't go so fast.
Here.
It's like, yeah. Well, wherever you had a slide that says maybe we have a data set easy block and we need something smarter on top to make sure we don't store the same thing twice. Like for AlphaFold, if there's parts that are identical, we want to do symlinks. I think you can be smarter from the very start in Framework, where when you're downloading a data set, you compute the checksum, and the checksum determines where it's stored. So the next time that happens, you will just hit it already because it will be sitting there on disk. And how you expose the data sets to the end users, those could be symlinks into the checksum paths, like you do object storage.
Okay, let's discuss this.
I think you can handle this fully in Framework and just hide it.
Okay.
And then you can either you do hard links if you put the links on the same file system as where the data is actually stored, or you can just do symlinks. And then you don't need to do extra easy blocks at all. Right?
Okay, yeah.
Well, like what CVMFS does as well.
I have one concern about the toolchain thing that you said there, because when you have it installed as system, it shows together with Java, with CUDA on the module list and not as a separate data set. So perhaps we should have a toolchain of data sets. Yes, because system is not the right place for that.
But it has to have one in Vrije.
Well, system is actually no toolchain, right?
Yeah, we could make like a data. What is core?
Just call it a data chain.
Like a dummy.
Oh yeah, but when you do a module list, it shows in a different location. Yeah, you have the system modules which are there, like Intel compiler or whatever, and then you have a gigantic list of data sets together with that thing. It's like, yeah.
Yeah, was actually one of my things on the slides. So thanks for the suggestion.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm almost there. What's happening? So this is the first hallucination. Second one, does it make sense to use EC to load data sets? I guess yes, unless it's too big, or yeah, licensing, of course. I don't know what is the limit for EC, how big?
It's in the cloud,
Can
so
it
it's
be?
infinite.
Yeah, but
You have local cache. You need to be careful that local cache on nodes can be only sometimes 32 gigabytes. And therefore, if you try to put data which are larger than that, then you will start to have trouble.
But can you use just disk as a cache?
There's tricks you can do. So there's one company that does high frequency trading that uses CVMFS for distributing data, and they're doing petabytes with CVMFS. So it's definitely possible. It's multiple. Yeah, but it's not 2 petabytes. I think it's hundreds of petabytes, or at least dozens.
Yeah, but the limit is a single file being too large in CVMFS.
Is there a limit on that?
There is a configurable limit on it.
Yeah.
If I
Okay.
remember correctly.
Yeah, on our side, more than 32 is not possible. And therefore, if a file is more than 32, I have no clue what's going to happen.
That depends on the.
Yeah, that's the limit we put.
But there's tricks you can do with the cache as well. I think you can tell CVMFS for this repo, you use a different cache or you don't use a cache at all, or I mean, you can configure it, but yeah, it would definitely be a separate repository. We wouldn't throw this in software EasyIO, but it could be in data EasyIO. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's an option worth looking into, and it has been done. CVMFS is not built for this, but there are people doing it and on a pretty big scale. So it's definitely possible.
Jasper, you also had a question, right?
So going back a little bit regarding the having large data sets and extracting them and copying them around across the file systems, maybe it's worth having some kind of configuration option as well for data sets specifically. That means they're actually downloaded to the install location and extracted in place to avoid copying across file systems or, messing around with that.
Yeah.
I think specifically for data sets, especially stuff like AlphaFold and stuff like that, I feel like that would probably be something we personally use, because we don't really care about keeping the tuples, but the sources around after we've extracted it, given how quickly it updates and that kind of stuff. So that's definitely something I'd be interested in.
Nice. And this was the thing that I was worried about. How can we get this list of all those data sets easily for the users without looking at the software? So the suggestion of Alex,
hang on. If you do not keep the tables around, you need to somehow store the checksum of your unpacked data, the checksum from the tarball which you unpacked, so you can know exactly which installed checksum you have. Yeah, but when you need to handle that, because if you remove the tar file, you can't actually recheck it. Yeah, then you would need to know which checksum did the tarball will have that I have already unpacked and removed.
Yeah. Okay.
There was a comment from Bob. You can tell CVMFS to store the files in some external location, like an S3 bucket. So you can even put it, I think even maybe like iRods or something has an S3 API. So you can put it somewhere else, which is something that's built for storing lots of data. And then expose that through CVMFS.
Yeah.
So as a backend, it's something somewhere totally different. And then with caching, I think you need to be careful as well, but it can definitely be done. Yeah. Oh, and this last thing, to some extent, so you have an install path for data configuration option. Do you have a module path data configuration option as well?
No, good idea.
Because if you have that, then all those modules are totally separate. And maybe people have to do a module use or load another module first before they see available data sets. And then you can group those all together, totally separate from the software.
All these show up in the module
3 as data, not
instead of core.
Yeah. But keep it by default the same as for the software, or I don't know. Yeah. We could.
Yeah, or have something that /data instead of /software, and then modules under there. We have now modules all. It could be modules. Well, modules data won't work because we have a data module class already. But you could do data sets.
Yeah. But yeah, is anyone using those module classes?
Some people do, I think. They do it to group module avail into smaller groups.
Okay.
And I know that some people only zoom in on certain things. Yeah. Some people do use them.
Okay. Thank you. Jörg?
On the module case, if we've got something like a module class like dataset and so on, that would be quite good. And also I think what might help is when you are loading, for example, AlphaFold, to print out in the shell, please load the required dataset, if you see what I mean. So a user, when they are loading AlphaFold, they then have to choose as an active part, I want to have that dataset and not that one, for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Just to give them a hint, and so we don't get tickets. There is no dataset. I have installed it now. Now my home directory is full, if you see what I mean.
But you can use the dataset as a dependency of the software. So the environment variable is already set, and you can, of course, use a mod load message, something, yeah, you can always do that. Yeah. Yeah, Cynthia?
So I don't know much about the data sets. Is there a standard way of naming the data sets? I'm thinking about the user and how the user would find these data sets.
Yeah, I don't know much about data sets. Only thing is that I know is it's
It's a mess.
it's a mess.
It's a mess. It's kind of like a field. Yeah, like if you look at Kaggle, it's like that. It's complete mess. Yeah.
Yeah.
So did you think about some way of making this easier for the user? Maybe data sets are tied to software that use that data set, so maybe they could not always.
Always.
Yeah.
Some are quite generic across. Yeah.
Right. Okay, great. Good to know.
Yeah, yeah. One last question, maybe?
Yeah, I have a strange case that's firstly the data set well, it's the small data, it's distributed with the software table. But once the user download it, they prefer to delete that data and then rsync from another center every day. Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm not sure in this case
Yeah.
it's good to use easy config or just create that folder manually and then make the module by hand.
Yeah, if it's just for one-time usage, yeah, makes sense to not.
Yeah, but they
use
want
it.
to rsync every day.
Yeah, rsynching, that should be possible, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The problem is that they just want to keep its update.
Yeah. Yeah, we could have like a version latest, something like that, and then. Yeah, and then have a cron job that automatically, yeah. To exit now, right? Ah, one more?
Thank you, Sam.
Thank you.